boys and girls, Miss Southard here, and today we're going to do a really cool science experiment. I'm going to teach you how to make a rain gauge. Now take a look at the word gauge. It's spelled a little differently than you might think. G-A-U-G-E. Interesting. So first, what is a rain gauge? Let's take a look. Here's one that I made. A rain gauge is something that meteorologists can use to measure the rainfall over a period of time. Then they can collect their recordings or data to predict future rainfall. Isn't that cool? So take a look at mine. You place it outside, and when the rain comes down, it gathers through the funnel. As the water fills up in the bottle, we can take a measurement of exactly how much rain has fallen. Awesome. So, to get started, let's wash your hands, and if you have really long hair, you might want to tie it back so it doesn't get in the way. And if you're all set, follow me so we can see what materials we need for this experiment. The first thing we'll need is a clear plastic water bottle. Any old bottle should work, water or soda, whatever you have at your house. You'll also need just a little piece of paper, like this. You'll need a 12-inch ruler. You will need some rocks or some pebbles, or if you have sand, that works too. And that's just to weigh the bottle down so it doesn't blow away outside. You'll need a Sharpie or a permanent marker to make your markings. You'll need some tape. And lastly, you'll need some scissors. So if you're all set, follow me and let's get started with our rain gauge experiment. First thing I'm going to do, step one, is take my bottle and my scissors, and I'm going to see where on my bottle does it curve. Somewhere at the top. Boys and girls, you will need help from an adult for this part. So grab your adult and let's cut off the top of our bottle. Bazinga! It should look something like this. Perfect. The next thing we're going to do is take our rocks or our pebbles or our sand and throw them in the bottle. And wherever is the highest point, kind of shuffle it around, wherever is the highest point, take your marker and make a marking. So for here, I'm looking at where my rocks end. I'm going to make a little mark there. And that's going to be our end point that we will start at. So once you've got your mark, you take the rocks back out, set them to the side. The next thing we're going to do is make our labels or our measurement markings. So, take your piece of paper, line up the bottom with the mark you just made, and if your paper is longer than the opening of the bottle, just take your scissors and cut it off right there. This is the amount of paper that we'll need. We don't need this other bit. So next, we're going to partition our line so we know where to make our markings. So come on over here so you can see that up close. First, I'm going to take my ruler. Make sure we're on the inches side. I'm going to line up my ruler, not at the very end, but at the very first mark that I see, and that is point 0. So I line it up with the end of my paper, and I'm going to make a mark just like this. Next, I'm going to take a look at my ruler, and I'm going to look for the whole number that's nearest to the end without falling off. I see 1, 2, and 3. So find the mark for hole number 3 or 4 or wherever it is on your bottle. You might have 4, you might have 5. That's okay too. And make your endpoint there. So now I have my 2 endpoints. And just like a number line, we're going to make a straight line in the middle. Perfect. So it should look something like this. Next, we're going to mark our whole numbers. So I'm going to line up my ruler again. Let's find the whole numbers that are in between. I have 0, 1. So I'm going to make a mark right where I see 1, 2, and 3. Now, to label these, I'm actually going to turn my paper so it's going to look a little different than the number lines we were working with in class. My endpoint is, what do you think? Think about it. That's right, it's 0. 0 what? What measurement are we using today? We're using inches. So I'm going to use IN for inches. 0 inches. There's 1 inch. There's 2 inches. And there's 3 inches. So it should look something like this. Or if your bottle's longer, maybe it keeps going and you have 4 inches or even 5 inches. That's okay too. Now, the next thing we're going to do is partition each hole in half. But instead of estimating, we're going to continue to use our ruler. So let's line up our ruler once again. Now you can kind of see where the 1/2 inch mark is. It's right there. So I'm going to make a mark. Oops. And then another 1/2 right there. I see another 1/2 right there. But in order to get more precise measurements, I think I'm going to partition even further. And I'm going to go ahead and break each 1/2 in half. So let's use our ruler. Try to find the markings in between the 1/2 and the hole. We're breaking each 1/2 in half. And it should look like this. And if you can remember, when I break a 1/2 in half, what did I just do? What is my unit fraction? Think about it. That's correct. It's fourths or quarters. Now, let's find our halfway mark between each hole and write that as a fraction. 1/2 or 1/2. And on the other side where I have more space, I'm going to label my quarters or fourths. So I start with my first one down here. That's 1/4 over here. But I don't want to label 2/4. I don't need to label 2/4. Why? Because it falls at the same point on the number line as what? That's correct, 1/2. So let's just leave that as 1/2. Let's move up and label this one 3/4. And I'll continue this way. There's 4/4, but I don't need to label that because I already have hole number 1. So to do it for each 1/2, we're going to do a little bit differently than we've been doing our number lines. I'm just going to go ahead and make this a 1/4. There's 1/2. There's 3/4. There's my hole. There's 1/4. There's my 1/2. There's 3/4. And there's my hole. So in the end, it should look something like this. All right, now we're going to take our bottle and we are going to transfer it onto our bottle. The reason we did it on paper first was just in case we made a mistake and we needed to go back, because once you get the marker on the bottle, it's hard to get off. So we're going to line up our 0 or our end point with the marking that we already made, just like that. And then, with your parents' help, you're going to transfer all of your markings onto your bottle. So first I'm going to make my endpoints, just like we did on the paper. That's the easiest way to do it. And in the end, you should get something like this. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to now and make your markings on your bottle. Okay, so now we've got our bottle all set with our measurements. The next step is to take our rocks or our pebbles or our sand, again, place them back inside. Now, this part is very important. We're going to fill our bottle with some water to our first end point, which is 0 inches. So very carefully fill up your water right to that first end point. And it should look something like this. This is called, in science terms, saturation point. Saturation point means that we just have a starting point to work with for our rain so that it's flat, so that our measurements are even and accurate. All right, next we're going to take the top of our bottle, flip it upside down, put it right on the top, and this is where you'll need your tape. So get some tape. We're going to tape on the top. However is easiest for you. Just make sure it's secure and even so that when we place it outside and we catch our rain, it will stay in place. Just like that. Ready? You did it! Now we have a rain gauge. So the reason I had you label it this way is because, let's say the rain falls up to here. Take a look. How much rain has fallen? That's correct, it's 1 inch. But let's say the rain falls to here. Is it 1 inch? No. Is it 1.5 inches? No, it's right in the middle. And we are going to call that 1 1/4 inch. Now, let's say the rain falls to here. Oh my gosh, it rained a lot. It was a stormy, stormy day, and our rain gauge is almost all the way filled up. Let's look at our line. So 2 is the closest whole number that the water has reached. And it's pretty close to the marking 3/4 or 3/4. And typically when you're measuring, you want to have it on a flat surface like this so that the water stays even. I'm just holding it up to show you. So this would be 2 3/4 quarters. The rain has fallen 2 3/4 inches. That's a lot of rain. So great job, boys and girls. You did your first step, creating your rain gauge. Now, go find a place outside in your yard where it's safe and there's no trees or leaves hanging over it, where you can get a clear shot of the rainfall. Set it there and let's wait for it to rain so that we can all take our first measurement, and I'll show you what to do in the next video, how to record our measurements so that later on we can make a chart just like meteorologists do and maybe make a prediction about the rainfall that is yet to come. Great job, boys and girls. I'll see you in the next video.